Hello, dear listeners. In this series, I will tell you the tales from the 1001 Nights that have fallen to our lot from the tongue of Scheherazade. But I thought, let's first listen to Scheherazade's own story. Because a tale is not just a narrative, it is a matter, a representation, a parable. Tales are the subconscious of societies. They are woven from archetypes, symbols, and images. For those who know how to listen, tales tell a great deal. Scheherazade saved the world with stories, but how? Come, let's begin together. Once upon a time, between the lands of China and India, there lived a mighty ruler who reigned over fertile lands. This ruler was of Sasanian descent. He was known for his wisdom and famed for his justice. His people both loved and respected him. Scholars were never absent from his palace, and words of wisdom echoed in his court. This ruler had two sons. The elder was named Shahryar, and the younger was named Schahzaman. The two brothers were devoted to each other since childhood. They played in the same gardens, took lessons from the same tutors, and grew up at the same tables. But fate would test them in different ways. When the ruler passed away, the palace mourned. However, the order of the state had to be maintained. As was tradition, the elder son, Shahryar, ascended the throne. He became the head of the greatest empire in the East. His younger brother, Schahzaman, was appointed governor of Samarkand, the country's largest and most strategic province. This city was at the crossroads of trade routes, a point where cultures intersected. Schahzaman lived among his people there and ruled with justice. Just like his brother, he was beloved by his people. Years passed. The two brothers established peace and order in their own lands. However, over time, the longing between them began to grow. Festivals came and went. Letters were written, but they were never able to meet face to face. One day, Shahryar sighed as he looked towards Samarkand from the high towers of his palace. "It has been years since I've been with my brother," he said. And on that day, he made a decision. He summoned his most trusted envoy. He gave him an invitation letter written on the finest fabrics. The edges of the letter were embroidered with gold, its ink scented with musk. He said to the envoy, "Go, carry my greetings to my brother. Tell him, the gates of my palace are open to you. Come, let us put an end to our longing." When Schahzaman received the letter, his eyes filled with tears. "My brother has not forgotten me," he said. Preparations began at once in his palace. The most elite soldiers, the finest gifts, and the rarest horses joined the caravan. The people of Samarkand poured into the streets to see their ruler off. Prayers were said and cheers were raised. The caravan set off. Gold-embroidered banners waved in the wind, and the sound of horses' hooves echoed through the valleys. This journey was not just a visit, it was a reunion that would bring the hearts of two brothers together again. But fate was about to cast a shadow over this journey. The caravan had just left the city to travel to Samarkand when evening fell. The sky was draped in a crimson veil, and the wind gently swirled around the tents. Schahzaman had left his palace behind, setting out with the excitement of reuniting with his brother. However, as the camp was being set up, a spark ignited in his mind. "I forgot," he said to himself. There was a special gift he had prepared for his brother Shahryar. It was not just an object, but a gift that held brotherhood, longing, and love within it. He had hidden it in a secret room in the palace. To go without bringing this gift would make the visit incomplete. But this matter shouldn't be made a big deal. He didn't want to alarm the caravan. "I will return to the palace in disguise," he said. "I'll grab it and come back without anyone noticing." He mounted his horse and set off quietly towards the palace in the dark of night. The stone walls of the palace shimmered in the moonlight. The guards did not recognize him, as his attire was that of a common man. He slipped inside secretly. The corridors were silent, the rooms asleep. He headed for his private chamber. When he pushed the door ajar, he stepped inside. And in that moment, time stood still. Before him, he saw his wife with a slave. They neither showed shame nor hid. It was as if his absence had legitimized this betrayal. Schahzaman's vision darkened. His heart shattered into 1,000 pieces in an instant. The walls he had built with love collapsed, and the foundation of trust crumbled. Rage coursed through his veins. He drew his sword. That night, 2 lives silently met the earth in the palace. There were no screams, no cries. Only the echo of betrayal remained on the walls. But this revenge did not fill the void inside him. His heart was still aching. That night, it was not a ruler who was broken, but a man. And with that broken heart, he quietly returned to the caravan. They continued on their way. But now, this journey was not driven by a longing for brotherhood, but by the shadow of betrayal. On and on they traveled. Over hills and dales they went. Days followed days, and nights were adorned with stars. The caravan crossed mountains and passed through valleys. At last they arrived at the magnificent palace where Shahryar ruled. The golden domes of the palace glittered in the sun, and exotic birds chirped in its gardens. But Schahzaman's eyes did not see these beauties. His face was pale, his gaze vacant. His joy was gone, his appetite lost. He wouldn't even touch the rarest dishes served at the palace feasts. Shahryar immediately noticed this change in his brother. "Brother," he said one evening at dinner, "what has happened to you? You are not as you used to be." Schahzaman lowered his head. "It's nothing important," he said. "Perhaps just the fatigue of the road." But Shahryar was not convinced. There was a storm in his brother's eyes. It hadn't broken yet, but it was close. One day, Shahryar decided to go hunting with the palace court. The palace emptied. Schahzaman preferred to stay alone. Perhaps he wanted to rest a bit, perhaps to think. But fate had another plan for him. Evening fell. The palace courtyard grew quiet. The shadows lengthened, and the wind carried whispers. As Schahzaman watched the outside from a high window, he noticed some activity. The female servants had gathered in the courtyard. Laughter rose, and wine jugs were passed from hand to hand. The slaves were there too. The entertainment had begun. But his eyes fixed on one person, his sister-in-law, Shahryar's wife. She was also in this crowd, and she was alone with the slave. Schahzaman's breath caught. His heart broke once more. So, he thought to himself, loyalty in this palace is just a fairy tale. While the pain of his own betrayal was still fresh, seeing his brother suffer the same betrayal oddly relieved him instead of shaking him. This is one of the secrets of the 1001 Nights. He who sees someone worse off than himself feels his own spirits lift. Schahzaman felt he was no longer alone. His pain was shared, and this sharing lightened his soul. But Shahryar did not yet know a thing. When Shahryar returned from the hunt, he found his brother with a pale face. Schahzaman's eyes gazed into the distance. His lips remained silent. This man, once overflowing with joy, now seemed to converse with shadows. At the table, Shahryar had his brother's favorite dishes served, but Schahzaman did not even touch them. "Brother," said Shahryar, "what has happened to you? What is the reason for this state?" Schahzaman lowered his head. "Never mind," he said. "It will pass." But it wasn't passing. Shahryar sensed a storm behind this silence. Days went by. Shahryar's curiosity grew. One night, while walking in the palace garden, he asked again, "Tell me what has stolen your joy. Perhaps we can find a remedy." Schahzaman took a deep breath. His eyes welled up with tears. "My brother," he said, "what I am about to tell you would shatter a heart. But you must know." And he told him about returning to his palace before leaving Samarkand, seeing his wife with a slave, cleansing the poison of betrayal with his own hands. Shahryar was stunned by what he heard. "How could you bear this?" he asked. But what he was really curious about was how Shahzaman's joy had returned. "So," he said, "what was it that brought you back to life?" Shahzaman fell silent. "I cannot tell you that," he said. Shahryar insisted. "Brother, I share everything with you. Share this as well." And Shahzaman recounted what he had seen in the palace courtyard. His sister-in-law, that is, Shahryar's wife, being with a slave, the female servants and slaves reveling in the palace nights. That loyalty was a fairy tale, and betrayal a reality. Shahryar's eyes widened. "No," he said, "I cannot believe this. I will not accept it until I see it with my own eyes." That night, it was announced that a hunt was organized at the palace. Everyone was to go hunting. But this was a game. Shahryar and Shahzaman secretly climbed to the highest tower of the palace. In the darkness of the night, as the moonlight illuminated the courtyard, they began to wait. And the moment came. The female servants filled the courtyard. Laughter erupted. Slaves carried drinks and the dancing began. And Shahryar's wife, she was there too, in the arms of a slave, in the very midst of betrayal. Shahryar felt as if his heart would stop. His vision darkened. His world collapsed. The love inside him instantly gave way to rage. Shahryar descended from the tower in silence. There was no anger, no tears on his face, only the decision of a ruler. A decision that was final, harsh, and irreversible. When morning came, a command echoed through the palace. The queen and the slave will be tried for the crime of treason. But this trial was not a court hearing. It was an execution. Shahryar gave the order to his executioners, and that day 2 lives met the earth in the palace courtyard. The queen's eyes were filled with fear. The slave was silent. But Shahryar's gaze was blank, because there was no longer any room for love inside him. That day, not just 2 people died. The last glimmer of hope in Shahryar's heart was also executed. And from that moment on, Shahryar was a different man. He was the ruler not of justice, but of rage. After the betrayal they had experienced, the 2 brothers set out on a journey to suppress the growing pain within them. Their goal was to see that their own troubles were not the worst. "If there is something worse than what we have experienced," they said, "perhaps this fire inside us will subside." Months passed. They crossed mountains, traversed deserts, and witnessed many stories in distant lands. But no event seemed heavier than the betrayal they had endured. Not until they reached the palace of a giant. This giant was keeping a beautiful woman whom he had kidnapped on her wedding night in an iron chest with 7 locks. The giant stood guard over the chest, not allowing the woman to have any contact with the outside world. He thought he was protecting her. But one day, the brothers secretly saw the chest being opened. In the giant's absence, the woman had come out of the chest and was meeting with another man. In her eyes, there was neither fear nor remorse, only freedom and passion. The brothers looked at each other. What they saw was not just a betrayal, but also the complexity of human nature. "This is worse than our situation," they said, because the giant had tried to protect the woman with chains and still had been betrayed. They, on the other hand, had been deceived while free. This event fostered understanding within the brothers, not anger. When they left the giant's palace, they said their goodbyes, but in truth, they were also bidding farewell to their own pain. As they returned to their palaces, they were no longer just rulers, but 2 men who had seen the cruel realities of life.